Hi. Najee's had a big day because she goes to doggy daycare 3 days a week, and this was a daycare day. So she played hard, and now she's tired. We are going to talk some about judgment today, and that's a pretty big subject. So I am absolutely not going to touch on all of it. I never touch on all of whatever it is we talk about because there's always more. But judgment to me is a huge thing. I've struggled with being judgmental. I really struggled with being judged. So we'll get started. Welcome to Sunshine Spirit, Mindfulness, and Meditation. I'm Donna. This is Nagi, and I'm very glad you're here. So I have written a lot about judgment, and we may return to this topic a number of times. I've written a lot about it because it's been, as I said, a really big deal to me throughout my life. So, as usual, we're going to start with a reading. It's, again, as I've said every time, this is for you to make your own. But let's start and just read. What is it to be non-judgmental? Does that mean allowing anyone to do whatever they want without consequence? Would it mean having no true convictions or principles? No moral compass? What would it say about me? Being non-judgmental means separating the person from the behavior, condemning harmful actions, respecting appropriate responses. It means understanding, perhaps forgiving, seeing the light of humanity, even in the darkness, not just for others, accepting even me. The judgment we put on ourselves is one of the hardest things we do to ourselves. I can tell you from being a counselor that it was a frequent topic of conversation, and people's ability to punish themselves for things that weren't their fault, for all kinds of things, is pretty amazing and incredibly self-destructive. So when I wrote this, initially I wasn't thinking about me, but by the time I finished it, I was reminding myself that I can be pretty judgmental about me too. So that's what we'll be doing as we talk about that fundamental part of mindfulness, that is being non-judgmental. So let's start. I take a deep breath in and I feel my body and know my breath is entering my body. I breathe out and know my breath is leaving my body. I open all my senses, grounded in the here and now. And you take all the time that you want to feel open and grounded. And we'll go line by line. You might be able to see it from there, and then I wouldn't disturb Nagi so much. What is it to be non-judgmental? Well, there is an incredibly open and very personal thoughts, beliefs. I used to say that the only thing I was judgmental about was other people being judgmental. And I don't think that that was true, because I don't think that was the only thing I was judgmental about. But it was certainly true that I had no patience for people who were very obviously being judgmental. I strive to believe now that the judgmental behavior is different than what is necessarily the core of that person. People are not all good or all bad. So if they're being judgmental, what else is there? Something maybe wonderful to balance. And it's not my place to judge whether or not they're being judgmental. It's pretty hard. That's one I hadn't thought about very much before just this moment. So what is it to be non-judgmental? The speculation that doesn't mean allowing anyone to do whatever they want without consequence. And immediately I start to think of crimes, especially crimes against other people. Naji's not paying attention to us anymore, or to my voice, but I don't know what caught her eye. Could be a squirrel, could be a neighbor, somebody's mowing over there. Doesn't matter. What would it mean? Would it mean having no true convictions or principles? Now that, I just don't believe. I just don't think that convictions and principles have necessarily anything to do with judgment. What I believe is right for me and wrong for me to do is up to me. And being true to my convictions and principles is up to me. No moral compass? How do we survive without it? It's a big deal. And I don't really know anyone, even people who don't seem to have a lot of, I can do this, but I can't do that. I don't really know anybody who doesn't have some kind of moral compass. And I've worked with people who allowed their moral compass to become so heavy and their self-judgment so strict that it was harmful. Other people just walk along the road and not worry and not wonder. They feel comfortable with what they do, and if they're not comfortable, they're not likely to do it. But I think most people, I'm not going to say everyone, but I think most people have some sort of moral compass. And it's not mine to judge what their compass looks like or what direction it points. What would it say about me if I were non-judgmental? Well, my very first reaction is I would very much like to be thought of as non-judgmental. That's how I see myself most of the time. And it's a principle and a conviction, part of my moral compass, that says it is very good to be non-judgmental of people. Behavior is a different thing, and separating behavior from people, that was kind of an eye-opener for me personally. So what would it say about me? I like to think that it says I'm accepting. I like to think that it says that I'm true to my convictions and principles and moral compass. Being non-judgmental means separating the person from the behavior, condemning harmful actions, respecting appropriate responses. We do this with our children fairly easily. And it's a big deal. There were a couple of things when I was teaching psychology at the college level, which I only did one semester, but it was a big experience for me. There were a couple of things that I insisted that I teach. I learned that you cannot force people to learn. But there were a few principles, and I think it fits right here with convictions and principles. There were a few things that I was very insistent that we cover And in fact, some of them I asked on every test because they weren't exactly something that had been in the textbook. They were very much about being non-judgmental. One of them was the principle that perception is reality. There's an exercise, and I've written about this in specifically itself. There's an exercise in therapy where you take a mug, and it's typically one that it has a somewhat unusual shape for a mug. And you set the mug between two people very carefully so that one person has the handle facing them and the other person, say you, is seeing a mug that looks like a vase. But if you can't see the handle, you don't know that it's a cup necessarily. And then you ask each one of them what they see. Invariably, the one that sees the handle says it's a cup or a mug. The other person is very likely to say that it's a vase. And their perception is their reality. They believe they are seeing a vase. Now, when you take something concrete like that, you can turn it around and manipulate it, and everybody can see that it is a mug. But when you take ideas, it's a little harder sometimes to turn them around and see them from different perspectives. And that's where we get a lot of disagreements in this world. Not because one person is wrong, but because perception is reality. One of the other things that I thought was really important to teach them was through the question, are you loved for who you are or what you do? And I refer back to being a parent. When our child does something, the first time your child plays with another child and maybe pushes the other child or grabs the toy, won't share, all those little things that kids do. Does that mean that you don't like your child? Of course not. You separate the behavior from the child and you recognize that it's a developmental stage and that as a parent, you're the guide and you help the child to see, hopefully, that sharing is good and that we don't hit other kids. But we don't stop loving that child just because they were inappropriate in a given moment in time. Now, the whole concept is bigger than that. And at the college level, it was hard for some of the kids to think about what their parents truly thought of them. In counseling, which is where I came up with the idea and the question, I saw it a lot. Now go back to perception as reality for a second. Maybe the parent never intended and didn't believe that their love for their child was conditional on what the child did. But if the child perceives parental love that way, it makes it reality for the child. They feel judged all the time, and pretty much that they come up lacking. To blame the parent for that would be incredibly judgmental and without all the facts. To blame the child for that would be incredibly judgmental without having all the facts. So separating the behavior from the person. And as I said, I usually do these with you, so that ended up being a little bit more than I initially was thinking about or intended, but that's just how my thoughts went. It's amazing how close it is to winter, and if you can imagine how much she sheds during the summer, this is why she did not become a therapy dog. Too much hair. It means understanding. Well, now, that's big. Does that mean that in order to be non-judgmental, I have to understand everything and everybody? Yeah. Does it mean I have to like the fact and that Nagi sheds ridiculously? I understand that it's the breed. And I don't judge her for it. But I did have to decide that I couldn't take her to the office. To me, that is huge. Understanding would be worthy of more than one meditation experience all by itself. It's a huge concept. Perhaps forgiving. Okay. Let's go back to thinking about children. Do we forgive them for not sharing? For maybe pushing another child? Absolutely. In my belief system, we absolutely forgive them. And we help to change that behavior for the future. Because it's not reflective of who that child is. We forgive a lot of things. And one of the bywords, or not a byword, but an important principle in therapy and sometimes in religious matters, is that forgiveness does not mean condoning a behavior or an action. We forgive for us. If you have hurt me and I don't forgive you, then I hold on to feelings that are not good for me. They don't make me happy. That can be very hurtful. A lot of times we don't forgive the other person because we blame ourselves. Same thing. We have to forgive us, which is sometimes harder. The forgiveness is something that we do for us to stop that load, to let go of the things that hurt us. Does not mean that we make it okay that that other person behaved so poorly. It's not okay. If it's criminal, it's criminal. If it's thoughtless, it's thoughtless. And I have a struggle right there with the idea of judgment. If an action is deemed thoughtless, am I being judgmental? I think that's going to take me some more time. Seeing the light of humanity even in the darkness. Now, that I'm comfortable with. Forgiving, understanding, by knowing that people are not all good, not all bad, that the person and the behavior are separate, and that when I look and see the light that we all share as humans, I don't have to say the darkness is wrong or bad or judge it. It just is. Not just for others. I was a trauma survivor, and for a lot of years of my life, I felt very literally that there was an ugly, putrid, black ball within me, and that I had to always be in control and never let that out to hurt anyone. I blamed myself for having been abused. And there's a lot of stuff that goes with being a trauma survivor, and I'm not going to get into all of that now. Even if left to my own devices, I might spend some time thinking about that in this context. We don't have time for the video to be that long. And I want to stay on point, more to the point. The light of humanity is what I try to come back to when I'm struggling about being judgmental or hurt or pondering forgiveness or any of those kinds of things. There truly is a light in everyone. I don't feel that dark ball anymore. And I know that it was never really there. But I felt it, and it sure was real at that time. Knowing that I am full of light instead of dark is the most important breakthrough, if you will, I ever had in my life. I am full of light. Wow. It's amazing. Seeing the light of humanity, even in the darkness, not just for others. Accepting. And it's on a separate line all by itself. As big a concept as judgment, as big a concept as understanding. Acceptance, very close to understanding. Is saying, okay, it happened. And nothing more. Certainly not saying it's okay. It's not blaming them or me. The acceptance part is very, very limited. Acceptance is, it happened. And that's it. And the that's it part is the hard part. Accepting even me. And we've kind of talked about that already. We are all light. You are as well. And looking for that light is how you find it, if you haven't already. This is your time to spend as much time as you want or need thinking about the part of mindfulness that emphasizes without judgment. Ties in well with beginner's mind, doesn't it? When a child approaches something new, they don't know if it's going to be good or bad. They don't walk to it saying, I'm not going to like that, unless it's a green vegetable. So when you think about all of the pieces of mindfulness, paying attention on purpose, with beginner's mind, and without judgment, they fit together hand in glove. And that's what it's all about. I'm going to take another deep breath. I breathe in and I feel my breath enter my body. I breathe out and I feel my breath leave my body. So we'll end this as we started. Not sure I remember which note we played, but it doesn't matter. And then maybe I'll continue to breathe. I'm probably going to stretch and move my body very gently. She's got her eyes wide open looking at me. Before I get up, I'm going to have to encourage her to move because she's laying on my arm. When you're ready, move yourself gently and feel strong. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here at Sunshine Spirit Mindfulness and Meditation with Nagi and myself. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Please don't hesitate to subscribe. Let me know what you want to see and hear. And thank you for your time. Until next time. Think you can move? Hmm? I want to move. That's my girl.